As I said before, and as I will say now and probably will say again in the future, if you want to be a more calm and patient person and therefore parent, it all starts with you. If you don't believe me, let's dive into it. Let's explore the things that you need, the tools and the person that you need to be in order to be calm when your child is having a tantrum. But first, hello and welcome. My name is Julie. I hold a doctorate in occupational therapy and I coach moms to go from feeling overwhelmed, impatient, frustrated to feeling calm and confident in their parenting so that they can weather all kinds of toddler behavior and the storms that life throws at us. I also have 3 kids myself, 7 and younger, so I have experienced a tantrum or 2 in my life, and I can tell you that no child responds to tantrums and meltdowns the same. Some kids grow out of them earlier, some kids take longer during each kind of emotional storm. Every child is so different, but there are some universal principles that I will discuss in this video to help you regardless of how your child behaves. I also have a weekly newsletter and podcast, so make sure you check out the links down below in the description so that you can subscribe and be updated with everything that is happening, thoughtful and useful and valuable parenting tips every week. I'm also very active on Instagram, so make sure you go and say hello to me over there, send me a message, and I would love to connect with you. And with all of that said, let's dive in to meltdowns. Okay, so we're going to attack this topic in 2 ways. The first is how you as a person can affect the response that you have to children's meltdowns or tantrums. And the second, I want to give you practical tips, kind of my thought process and how I deal with tantrums in my own life. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Ultimately responsible for you. So if you really want to weather the storm that is tantruming, we really have to look at what are you doing in yourself that is going to affect how your child reacts. Now, some things you cannot control. They're going to have a tantrum. You're going to experience some kind of emotional breakdown from your kids sometime in their lives. As I said before, some kids stop tantruming earlier than others in life. Some kids don't have as explosive of emotions as others. It's really based a lot on temperament and just a lot of different factors that we will explore. But it is very important as a parent that you can treat a tantrum with respect, if you will, not lose your own cool. And I want to talk about how you get to that place yourself. So I spoke a lot about what I'm going to talk about in a previous video about how to be more patient with your kids, and I'll have that linked up above and in the description box below. But I think these principles are so important that I want to mention them again. So listen up. Taking care of yourself will have the greatest impact on your parenting and on how you deal with emotional outbursts from your kids. Our usual suspects come into play. So getting enough rest, which I know can be really challenging during this stage when you're experiencing tantrums. It's like, what is happening? Your kids are losing it emotionally and you're super sleep deprived because maybe the baby's waking you up or the toddler's waking you up. You're not sleeping for some reason. It kind of goes hand in hand for this phase of life. But I'm telling you, you need to get creative with how you get your rest. Not just so you can be patient and more calm as a parent, but also just so you can be healthier, live longer, be around for your kids for longer, because sleep is so critical for all of those things. Whether it's taking a nap, whether it's going to bed earlier, whether it's somehow disconnecting the cable subscription so that you're not tempted to watch hours and hours of TV after the kids go to bed, whatever you need to do to go to sleep and just make up that time if you're not getting a solid bout of sleep, as many young parents are not, you need to be doing it. The next thing you need to do is focus a little bit more on your diet. Are you cutting out the processed junky food, reducing the amount of sugar that you're taking in, and eating nutrient-dense food? Because as we all know, we've experienced what that hangry feeling is like. We know what it's like when our children are really hungry. You need to be fueling your body with food. It's not just about eating for fun and eating just because that's what we do. You really, really need to be using food as fuel. And you know that when you haven't been eating well or you don't eat enough, which is often what happens as moms, we don't prioritize ourselves when we eat. We don't eat enough. You get hangry yourself, and that's just a recipe for disaster. If you need help with getting your routine on point and helping your kids go to bed earlier, I have 2 other videos that I've created. They will be linked up above and down below in the description box that you can look at to try and get that bedtime routine in check, which in turn will give you a bit more time, which will help you prioritize your meals and all this kind of thing. So make sure you check those out after this one. You can do getting outside, getting fresh air, working out, getting exercise, and then things like meditation and journaling. These are all things that you can kind of do on your own, implementing them into your day kind of right now if you choose, and this will really help go a long way when it comes to being more patient. However, I want to go a layer deeper. If you really want to be calm during times of stress and high emotion, and let's be real, what is a better example of that than our kids having a meltdown? Never mind in public. Let's not even go there, right? Or in front of your mother-in-law or something like that. If you really want to be calm, you need to take this up a notch. And that probably includes getting some help, whether that is therapy that you go through to kind of figure out what is being triggered in you as a child and how it's coming out when your kids misbehave, however you want to classify that, whether it is getting a coach, someone that can really help take an audit of your day and of your life and help you get your time back and help you see those areas where you are struggling to see how you're showing up in the world, whether also doing like group coaching or courses or self-development where you really are reflecting on how you're showing up in the world. I think it goes beyond just our basics of, eating, sleeping, exercise that we spoke about earlier. It's really going deeper than that to really shift the needle. And I do maintain that when you do this work and become a better person, you become a better parent, just naturally. You emit a different type of energy. And remember, as I always say, kids do not speak English, they speak energy. And especially when a child is having an emotional outburst, like a tantrum, and maybe they're pre-verbal, they haven't spoken yet, they're still learning how to express themselves. To be honest, even older children struggle to emotionally express themselves. They don't always have the language. Adults don't even have the language. When they are young like that, how you show up as like captain of the ship, the CEO, is going to determine how they show up in the world and how they express themselves. So it's super important that you start to unlock these kind of things that are triggering you, that are leading you maybe to lose your cool and maybe for you to have a grown-up tantrum. If you're finding that you get so triggered when they have an emotional outburst, that you get so angry that you can't control it, that you don't know why you're behaving this way, that could be an indication that there is some inner child work and things in your childhood that maybe you don't want to deal with, but are now coming out in your own children. And if you are really committed to this work, to breaking generational trauma, to breaking the cycles, to showing up as the best version of yourself for your kids so that your kids don't take on this baggage that you have, because ultimately that's what we want, right? We want our children to have the best possible start in life. Then it is critical that you do the work. And it just depends on you as to how much needs to be done, how much you want to be able to do in order to live the life that you so desire. And I can basically guarantee you that when you do this work, the self-development, the therapy, the coaching, when you do this work properly and you continue to work on yourself, to reflect, to change, to pivot, to see where the blind windows are, when you do that work, your children will show up differently. And it's kind of amazing. So it's a chicken and egg, right? When you're a hot mess, sometimes they can be a bit more of a hot mess. When you start to be a bit more calm and patient, you'll be able to handle the tantrums so much better. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that in the next step. But also they will probably have less outbursts. They won't be as long. You'll be able to solve them quicker because it's often not what they seem. And it's all because of how you are showing up in the world. As I said, I promised you some practical tips when dealing with a meltdown because it's probably going to happen to you. And I want to guide you through my thought process when it comes to my child having an emotional moment, right? And as I said, I have 3 kids, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old and a baby, a 1-year-old, and it's been really interesting comparing the 7 and 5-year-old and just experiencing how different they are as people. They're different genders. I don't know whether that makes a difference, but they're just different personalities, and they accept things at different levels. Some scream more, some are louder, some are quieter, some, all of these kinds of things. So it's really interesting to be able to have the experience now to deal with a wide range of meltdowns. This is really what I remember when it comes to when my child's having a meltdown, when it comes to dealing with it. The first thing is that it is not personal. As personal as it feels, or as hurtful it can be when they're saying things that kind of really stab you in the heart, like you're so mean, or you're the worst mommy ever, or I hate you, or whatever. It's not personal. It is not really about you, to be honest. It is them feeling very out of control in that moment, not being able to control these emotions, and just not having the maturity to really think through what is going on, and feeling all this energy that needs to move out of their bodies. They just haven't also been socialized to understand how we express emotion in a more mature context. And to be honest, there are a lot of adults that don't know how to do this either. So this is something that we do need to talk our children through, not because I want to quell or squash their emotions, but because losing your mind in a public setting or just in an inappropriate way is not a great way to go through life, feeling like you're not in control of how you feel, or you're not letting out your emotions in the appropriate manner. So there is a balance, but I think a lot of adults don't really know how to do this either, and so we as parents need to be that rock to guide our kids. Also think about this. Are they really upset about the thing that they're telling you they're upset about, or the thing that it seems that they're upset about? Like someone took so-and-so's toy from them, or we told them that they wanted a pink bowl and there's only a blue one. Is it really about that, or are they hungry, tired, or lonely? Like, do they need connection? Have they not had enough attention? Have they been behaving all day at school and now they just need to get this energy out of them? At the end of the day, emotions are energy in motion. And if it doesn't come out in one way, it's going to come out another way. And we want it to come out in a healthy way. And that is with us at home, where we can experience this tantrum together and we can talk about it after the fact. So think about, are the basics being met? Just like I spoke about that with you as the adult. Do they need something to eat? Like, when last did they eat, and what did they eat? Was it a very sugary snack that's been metabolized like this, or just, very simple carbs that are not really like going to sustain them and making their blood sugar kind of go up and down, which can lead to things like hypoglycemia or hypoglycemia, which can make them feel very unsettled in their bodies and can make them have a very short fuse, the same as an adult. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that. Have you had a really busy weekend? Have they not slept enough? Do they need to catch up on sleep? Did they go to bed too late last night? Maybe they're getting sick. There's all these kinds of things that you need to consider. It's not always about the thing that they're raging about. That's just the object of their affection in the moment. What is going on underneath? What is the foundation? Again, by thinking this way as well, you know that it's not about you. It's not personal. It's not because they hate you or you're a bad parent. It's got nothing to do with that. It's their way of processing their big emotions. As I said, they may have been at school or daycare or with a grandparent or a nanny all day and been on their best behavior. And now they are home. It's the end of the day. They're feeling tired and spent, and it all comes bubbling up. I want you to shift your perspective of, my child is not badly behaved, or, they have no control of their emotions, to, this is a privilege. And what I mean by that is they feel safe enough to kind of lose it in front of you. And that is something that a child and a parent and a child and a very close caregiver, those are the only situations where children often feel safe to fully express who they are. So it is kind of a privilege. It is a place where you're like, wow, I'm actually creating a safe space for them. The irony is I'm getting this kind of bad behavior, or I'm getting this difficult to manage behavior, because I'm their safe space, I'm their rock, and they can keep pummeling me and I'm not going to do anything. But you do have to think of it as every human being needs this anchor, and rather that be you than for them not to have it or somebody else. You are their parent, you signed up to do this. So even though it feels really uncomfortable and it's frustrating in the moment for you, you know that this is actually what they are supposed to do. This is developmentally appropriate, and this is their safe space. So it's kind of an honor. Before I had children, or before I had toddlers that were more, privy to meltdowns, I was kind of taught, I would say socialized, to distract children. So the goal was always to like stop kids from crying as much as possible, right? That was like the idea, like we don't want them to cry any longer, and so we will distract them. We'll take them and say, oh, look at this little bird out here, or oh, do you want a snack, when they're in the midst of like breaking down. And I've really changed my perspective on this. As I said, emotions are energy in motion. I think they need to come out. I don't think they need to be dismissed through distraction. There's an element of like, okay, let's move on after this has been going on for a long time. I understand that, and perhaps that is when we can start to introduce new things like, all right, I can see you're still upset. I'm going to start making dinner. Would you like to come with me? But you're not dismissing. You're still validating their feelings. You're allowing them to have this emotional experience, move the energy, and then start to move on to something else, versus kind of denying them the ability to act out and express themselves by trying to distract them immediately because you yourself are uncomfortable with crying and want it to stop. Is it about you feeling horrible around the crying, or is it about them actually making them feel better? Another thing that I really like to do is I try and sit with them. I try and hold them if they will let me. Compression and just closeness is good for calming the body, bringing us down to center. I have one child that tends to leave the room when they get upset. They go to their room and I can hear them crying, and sometimes I will just let them do their thing up there for a couple of minutes, and then I'll go up and get them or call them to come downstairs to regroup, because I don't know if at this age being alone is the best option. Maybe as they get older I will change my mind, but I want them to feel like they are seen and validated and close, and we're navigating this complete storm together. Ultimately, I ride it out with them. So as I was saying, I sit with them, or I hug them, or I stop what I'm doing and pay attention to them, because maybe that's part of the reason why they were having a meltdown in the first place, is they were not receiving enough attention. Validate what they are experiencing. So whether that's like we have to switch off the TV now and they don't want that, or we're not going to have this item to eat and they really want that. I try and validate it without lingering too long on it, because I don't think they want to be reminded of the thing that they are not allowed to have for too long. And then we just kind of sit there and let it pass, because it always does, even when it feels hard. I also don't lecture, for lack of a better word. We don't discuss the topic at hand in that moment, because when you're going through a total emotional storm, you're not in the right mind to receive advice or input, or what could be interpreted as like kind of a critique. So I wait until, a few hours later, maybe the next day, not too long, and we go back and we say, I know you were really upset about that. What could we do about this? Or let's talk about it. And I will usually get a much more thoughtful response, and obviously age appropriate. Different kids, different ages are going to be able to explain how they're feeling in different ways. But this way we can still learn from the experience and take something from it and move on to the rest of it. So my question for you is, how do you manage tantrums? How do they make you feel? What's something that has worked for you? For me personally, as I have evolved and grown as a human being, as I have invested in myself through therapy, through coaching, through self-development, through courses, through books, through all that kind of thing, I have really seen a shift in how I show up for my kids. Now, I have a lot to learn still. I'm on this journey. I get triggered as well. And that really just shows me that there is more work to do in that area, depending on what it is. So I am right here with you, but I've really noticed a massive shift when I have invested in myself, gotten someone else to help me, and just helped me see what I am missing and the pieces of myself that I need to address in order to give more to my kids. And I think that makes a big difference, because how I show up for myself is how I'm going to show up for them, and that is going to shift how I parent. And I've seen it working. I've seen it working with the way that my oldest son shows up in his life, the way he kind of parents his little sisters, the way he shows up at school with his peers and his friends, and the feedback that we get. And I feel like that has helped just motivate me to improve myself as a parent even though it's really hard and all the things, you know? So if this was something that was helpful to you, I would love you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, click the little notification bell, give this video a big thumbs up because it really helps support my channel. This is a new channel that I'm growing and I'm super excited to have you here watching. Let me know if you found the information helpful and if you have any topics or comments or ideas for what I can make next. And remember, moms, you've got this.